Hey, welcome to week 2 of human development. This week is all about those early stages of a kiddo's life. And there are 3 main areas that you'll be looking at this week. The first is attachment. When a child comes into this world, they're greeted by a biological mother or a caregiver. So they could be adopted into a new family, they could be placed into the state system like foster care, or they could go to some other family members too. So there's lots of different ways a family can look. But that initial interaction, generally with a mom, will really set the tone of how that baby works, because a baby is only able to communicate via their mouth, right? Everything happens through their mouth. So we think about like they eat through their mouth. If they're hungry, if they're bored, if they're tired, they will cry because that's the only way they know to communicate, and they start to learn those tricks, right? Ooh, if I cry when I'm hungry, someone puts a bottle in my mouth. Those are important, but also how they feel. If the person who picks them up smells like they recognize, right? A baby knows their mother's smell from the womb. Isn't that interesting? But if the mother is instantly affectionate and warm, those things can create a secure attachment for a kiddo. Now, if the mom is unsure, anxious, I'm unsure how to raise this baby, I'm nervous about how I'll care for this baby, I don't know what this baby's trying to tell me, those things are normal. But sometimes when we have that heartbeat or we're rigid or tense, the baby senses that, and that impacts the baby's attachment style. Think about a mom who has postpartum depression. That's really tough. The baby will also be affected by that. So none of these are at the fault of the caregiver or the parent, the mother. It's just things that happen, right? They're parts of the way that the baby attaches and feels safe in those early pieces of the world. Imagine going to a place where you know no one, and then you feel so alone and scared, and then you see someone you know, you cling to them, right? That's a baby. They don't know anything. They are relying on you to keep them alive. So the way you interact with them will impact their attachment. The attachment theory workbook, love this workbook. It can help you learn about things like secure attachment, anxious, avoidant, all those different types of attachment. And so if things weren't optimal as a kiddo, you can still work through it and make sure that you become a securely attached adult, because all of your relationships will be impacted by that. The other thing is developmental milestones. When a parent takes their child to, or a caregiver takes their child to the doctor, they're asking things like, by 6 months, can they sit up on their own? By 1 year, how can they speak? By a year, can they walk yet? By a year and a half, can they walk? How many words are they saying at age 2? Can they roll over? All of these things are important because it can help us get an inside peek at that brain. Maybe they're neurotypical, maybe they're neurodivergent, like on the autism spectrum, or maybe they have ADHD or ADD. Maybe they have something different, but we want to make sure that these kiddos are developing at a certain pace. And you can look up all those milestones. They even used to have like this little spinning wheel that we had as social workers where we could say, oh, how old is your child? Okay, this is what they should be able to know. Also, the parents' expectations for that development. I had a parent once when I worked as a social worker, and they just didn't understand when their baby was 4 months old, why they couldn't give their baby Mountain Dew, right? Or why they couldn't give their baby a candy cane. And they wondered, when will my child be able to mow the lawn? And I said, well, what would that look like to you? And they said, well, they would push the mower. I said, and how old do you think they would be? And they said, I don't know, 3. It's helping parents understand the appropriate developmental milestones, right? What your child should be able to do. And then working through what can we do to help them develop if they're not on task yet, because early intervention is the key to kids' success. The third and final is about the stimuli in the early years of a child's life. Does the parent talk to their baby? Does the parent use affect, bright affect in the child's face? Does the parent or caregiver read to the child? Is the child placed in front of the TV or a screen? Does the child have music? Is the child doing movement? How are they interacting with the world? Are they allowed to explore, right? All of those things are important for brain growth and development, for how the child will learn as they are going throughout their life. So the first 2 years of a child's brain is super important, because you're developing all these neural pathways and all these ways that we're going to learn and grow our brain. And so the more that we can put in that baby's face, the more that we can allow them to explore the world and hear the way that we read and talk and sing, even if you're not a great singer. It doesn't matter. They love your singing, and dance with them. Those are really important to help build that brain. So those early years are very impactful. And as we counsel folks, helping them understand how their early years might have been shaped can really help us kind of normalize what they might be struggling with now, and then help them pick things to work through and develop those skills that they might not have developed. It's all about being a kiddo, right? Welcome to week 2. Let me know if you have any questions, and have a great week.